Fishing Obsessed podcast. We'll be sitting down with a fresh guest each week. Someone who shares the same kayak fishing passion that runs through our veins. We're talking kayak anglers, kayak companies, lure experts. Heck, anyone who's got a story to tell about landing the big ones from a kayak. We're setting our sights on becoming the #1 kayak fishing podcast in the world. You'll get a chuckle, a grin, and hey, maybe even a belly laugh. Because we believe in the power of humor. But above all, we're here to educate and inspire. So, whether you're a seasoned kayak angler or just dipping your toes into this exhilarating world, join us on the Kayak Fishing Obsessed podcast. It's time to reel in adventure, camaraderie, and the joy of the catch. Here's your host, Darren Wendell.
You fish freaks, welcome to episode number 142 of the KFO show, Kayak Fishing Obsessed. As usual, tonight is going to be a banger. We've got Chad Hoover on the show, and we're going to be diving into one of the biggest questions in kayak fishing. How do you choose the right fishing kayak? And with so many new and used kayaks on the market right now, it's honestly overwhelming for a lot of anglers. Everyone's trying to figure out what's actually worth the money, what features matter, what's hype, what's a red flag on a used kayak, and how to avoid making a super expensive mistake. So tonight, we're going to break it all down from beginner setups to tournament rigs to pedal versus motor, stability, transport, you name it. And honestly, what's more important than the kayak itself? That's the person operating it safely. And you can have the most expensive rig on the planet, but if you don't understand risk and weather and cold water or basic on-the-water safety, things can go bad fast. This is why Chad and I are so passionate about KFAST, Kayak Fishing Advanced Safety Training. This is helping anglers become safer, smarter, and more prepared every time they hit the water. So if you have not yet done so, head over to kfast.co and earn your certification today. All right, folks, this is my favorite segment of the show. Does Wyatt still have a job? I can't pay someone to sing that, so I got to do it myself. Yeah. Wyatt, you still have a job, man?
I still have one.
He still has a job.
I need money to afford all of the stuff right now.
What's all the stuff?
All the stuff.
What's all this? Show us all the stuff. Do you have it? You have it there?
You want the reveal of all the stuff?
I want to see the reveal.
You gotta be able to.
Oh my gosh! For those listening in, he has koikis falling all over him. Right, prickly pears actually. Hags. Oh my gosh!
This would be like one koiki ball. This is like the cost of one koiki ball right here.
All right. Well, that is every
color you could ever possibly want,
bro. You're not gonna have a job soon.
All over the place.
I love it. Well, I'm glad you still have a job. I can't believe you do. You fish more than you work, so I'm just proud of you. You're living the dream. Everyone else is like, how's he doing it? He's going fishing tomorrow. I don't even know what to say. All right, I'm gonna bring Chad. He's over here, and I'm sure every time I have Chad on, he is like prepped with something smart alecky to say. So, Chad, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
What's up, man? Hey, Austin just caught a donkey on one of those fuzzy dice things.
Really? Oh, is that the one recently? This past week? That thing was massive.
Yeah, well, he just caught a bigger one today.
What color was it? What do I need to be throwing tomorrow?
Like an hour, just throwing the green pumpkin color. And all he's doing is slow sinking it into brim beds in 6 to 10 foot of water. So he's probably going to see this and be like, dude, what are you doing?
Giving away the juice.
Giving it away.
We went and looked at a new potential location because we're exploring opening up a retail store and moving to a new headquarters. And so I needed him to look at it. And I drug him off the water to look at it. He was showing me pictures of a 22, a 24 and a quarter. The 24 and a quarter was 7.5 pounds, and the 22 was 6.5 pounds. And then he caught a 20 and 3/4 that was almost 7 pounds. So it's like
they're
crazy.
all over the place.
Yeah. And but he caught all of them on that dice thing. So
of course they're blowing up my feed left and right. I'm like, I don't want to start doing that stupid thing, but maybe I do want to start doing that stupid thing.
Yeah, I think you want to start doing it because I've watched him now catch 20 fish over 23 inches on it in the last year.
All right.
So it's kind of one of those like, okay.
What color do you need?
I have an in, and I'll see Wyatt next week. So there we go. I'll see Austin next week.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll be down
Actually,
to-
Austin might bail. He's got the dog thing. He's what it is he's on big fish and he don't want to leave, but he's got all these other excuses. Plus, he's got a court date for a little indiscretion that he got himself involved in, and then I may not come directly back. So then it might just be me and you, bro. So
Yeah. Well, I got my drone guy, Jake, too. He's gonna be joining us. So
There's
it'll be
that.
good times. Well, I'm excited for tonight, Chad, because I know you, I know myself, and even Wyatt was telling me in the green room, one of the number one questions we get is around the subject of what kayak fishing should I get? And usually it comes across like, I'm 6'2", 140 pounds. What kayak should I get? It's like, bro, there's so many variables here. So let's pull back the layers of the onion here. And Chad, I know that you have sold kayaks, a lot of them in your lifetime professionally. I know that you have promoted. I know that you have reviewed. I know that you have designed and created, been part of large kayak companies to get you to this point. So I really look forward to your answers on this. So let's start with this question. And I have a ton of questions. What's the biggest mistake that people make when shopping for a fishing kayak?
Trying to keep up with the Joneses before they even start, thinking you have to have everything to get started. Honestly, the biggest mistake, and I've said this in probably 30 videos over my career, I see this a lot, and I couldn't disagree more with people that say save up and buy the best kayak you can. I believe that for your PFD, and I believe that for your paddle. Okay. Here's the thing about fishing and life in general. It doesn't matter how much money you have, you can't buy yesterday. So every fishing trip you don't go on is a fishing trip you'll never go on. So to me, buy a kayak used if you have to. That's a decent price point that holds its value. And so instead of buying a $300 kayak, buy a $600 or $700 used kayak that's a little more premium. And then in a year, you sell it for $600 or $700, and you basically rented it for the year.
Yeah.
So the biggest mistake I see people make is buying a super cheap boat or wasting a year of fishing trying to save up for the boat they think they have to have. I literally did a review of the that new Path.
Bro, took off. It's like 50,000 views. He's posted this past week.
Off, and it's also showing a marker growth, on the back end that it's got more views per hour now than it did, the first day. And then we shot the on water yesterday, and man, after I did the walkthrough on the stand, I wanted to hate it. It felt flimsy. Some of the things like the foot brace position were off. And it was just one of those things where like, man, this thing looks so good. The deck is a little wavy. They didn't have a sacrificial keel on the keel to remove and replace it in case you drag through it. And then the keel sticks down a good 2 inches below the pontoon. So that means it's going to be
going first.
So you're going to wear through it. But if you're going to fish lakes and ponds and you're not really aggressive and you're not fishing so much, you got to worry about losing your job like Wyatt.
He's not afraid about losing his job.
It's a good value. It's a good value, right?
Because it was $800, right? If you haven't watched the video, head over to Chad Hoover's page. It was $800
out of the store because Bass Pro Shop gives a good military discount. Out the door, I was like $778 or something like that. So truly, like under $800. I think it would be a little over $800 with taxes if you weren't military and you didn't get the discount. But out the door, I was $778. I threw a couple of Yak Attack rod holders on it. I threw a black pack on it. I threw a paddle holder, and that was it. And
you're under a G.
Yeah, man. It's a. Austin was actually making fun of me during the video. He's like, "You got one rod and reel setup that costs more than that kayak. Your paddle costs almost as much as the kayak." He's like, "I got 2 lures on my boat that cost as much." All that crap. So, and I think that there's a miss on that boat for motorization. But I personally think you should start, when you go to flight school to be a pilot, they don't start you out flying a jet, right? You start in a prop airplane with stick and rudder and you learn how airplanes fly. I might be a little old school in saying this. I think everybody should paddle first. That's just me. I think you learn more about the handling of the boat, the performance of the boat, and a lot of those things. And you don't have your crutch of your pedals or your motor or any of that. And pedals and motors spook fish. I don't give a flying flip what you say. Oh man, I caught some of the biggest fish in the world. Okay, whatever. But we do these videos where we're like, yeah, this lure's got a little vibrator and it sends out a pulse wave and they can feel it.
Yeah, we eat it up.
And, oh yeah, man. And then everybody's like, yeah. And then you're out there fishing in an egg beater that's attached to your hole that's sending out pulse waves. You can't tell me it doesn't spook big fish because I've seen it spook big fish. So to me, I think everybody should start paddling, you know. And there's a lot of really good boats, sub $1,000 right now. You know, when I wrote the book Kayak Bass Fishing, there was like 3 or 4 kayaks that were big at the time. The Ride, the Ocean Kayak, the Ride 135 from Wilderness Systems, the Ocean Kayak Drifter, the Ocean Kayak Prowler, and maybe a couple more. And they were all $1,000. Now there's like better kayaks than that for $1,000, not adjusted for time either. I'm talking about it was $1,000 20 years ago. Now it's sub $1,000 in today's money. So there's never been a better time to get into or be part of kayak fishing, in my opinion. There's more information available. There's more options available. There's more accessories available. I mean, when I started kayak fishing, everything was Home Depot aisle 7, or you would be walking around. Is it 7? Is the whatever the PVC aisle is now? Back then it was aisle 7. Now they got 150 aisles, so who knows? But back then you would walk around looking at, like, I mean, I used to look at my kids' toys and I would cannibalize stuff. Like I cannibalized Austin's soccer net one time because it had a PVC tube on it that I needed to make a Visicar, the first ever stern light that is similar to, was the forerunner to the Visipole or the Visicarbon Pro or all that. And it was just a Princeton Tech light that I had from the military, and I heated the little tube up for his little soccer net.
Dad of the year.
The end of it and started sticking it on the back of my kayak. And then, so I cannibalized kids' toys. I went to yard sales just looking for stuff that I could make into kayak fishing accessories. I did every possible crate variation similar to the videos you've done on your website. But there's no better time to be in kayak fishing, in my opinion, than it was great back in the day when nobody was doing it, right? And you had all the spots to yourself and you don't round a corner and there's 3 kayak fishermen in your spot. But from a product availability and innovation standpoint, there's never been a better time to be in it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like it. Now you said a couple things I want to circle back on. If you have a question for Chad or Wyatt or myself, go ahead and throw that in the comment section. I will star those and we'll get to answering those. But you said 2 things, Chad, and you choose your own adventure on this. Get a kayak that holds its value. So you can either go down that road. What are the kayak companies out there right now that you were like, yes, this has held its value. It's going to hold its value, and likely into the future will hold its value. Or 2, you said there's a lot of sub $1,000 kayaks. Give me your top 3. Which one you want?
Right, I would say the RS 117 from Bonafide.
Yep. Which I have right now. I was taking it out, dragging that thing through the woods.
The Topwater 106 from Old Town. Old Town also has this new boat. It's basically a variation of it called the Lake Walker, which I think might be the dumbest name I've ever seen, but it's a cool little boat. The Lake Walker. The Lake. Why? Do you think that's a stupid name, or is it just me?
It's an interesting name. I did get some backstory on where it came from. It's the Topwater 106 made for Dick's Sporting Goods.
Right,
but it's relatively.
There's other words. Lake Walker. Are you going out walking on the lake, or do you just
knowing?
Is it your Jesus boat?
I mean, knowing our buying team, I understand that.
I could see that a spin on maybe like they were trying to go after the Luke Skywalker Star Wars angle. It's just a dumb
Lake
name.
Walker.
It'll be back to the Topwater next year.
They could have called it something else, but anyway. So the Lake Walker is basically the Topwater.
Yeah.
The New Canoe Flint, solid little boat. And I'll tell you a boat that surprised me lately. And when somebody commented on it, I was like, that boat doesn't have a frame seat and this, all the things that I had put out in that video. And then I looked it up and was like, holy crap, the Moken 12 from Feel Free has literally stepped its game up big time. And it's like $8.99. I mean, it's the same price. And from what I know about Feel Free, because I used to be a dealer for them, their boats are thick. They're actually too thick in many cases. They're so heavy because they're so thick, but that makes them pretty durable. They got the wheel and the keel. They got some other, cool little stuff. They have that stupid proprietary track when everybody else is with the T-Bolt track game. Other than that, so I'm going to look that boat up and try to find one and do a review of it because it stands out on paper, at least, as one of the better boats. And then one that really got my attention because so many people put it in the comments of that video is the Manta from Lifetime. I was like,
Okay.
Lifetime? Like that? Is that the Tractor Supply kayak? I mean, and then I went and looked.
The
and they actually
basketball goal company.
Yeah, they actually have a little, and the picnic table company and the folding chair company. They actually have a couple of little decent boats. Like one's called the Teton or something like that.
The Teton Angler is about $350. You find it on sale. Yeah,
I went to look at it, and then they got one that's like decked out with like different color rod holders and different color bungee, which is like, I mean, it's a decent looking little boat. So I'm going to give them all a try.
Yeah. I actually liked the Teton whenever I was in it. I was pretty surprised whenever it first came out. I think they were on sale for like $250, and I was like, I need 500 of these boats because I'll sell every one of them. And they've gone up to like $350 now, but still, it's an awesome like sub $500 entry kayak.
So cheap, cheap.
It has like a raised seat and everything on it. So,
but going back to answer the question you asked, I would say Bonafide. The Jackson Ride is is it the Ride? No. Bite. The Jackson Bite's a pretty decent boat in that price point. The New Canoe, Flint, the Old Town Topwater, and the Perception Pescador Pro 12. I also looked at that at Dick's, and it's a pretty decent little boat. What it is it's an old Tarpon 120 from the Wilderness Systems lines that they repurposed, and so that's kind of my 7 answer to your 3 questions. So yeah,
it's good. No, I like it.
Are the Attack 120 still floating around?
No. I actually called them. I'll tell you straight up, and I'll say this on the podcast. I literally called to ask them if they would bring back the Tarp or the Attack 120 and 140 and the Commander 120 and 140, and I'll pay for it. I'll promote it. That's 2 of the best boats ever made is the Attack 140 and the Commander 140. So
that 140 was like my first big most expensive kayak that I had.
Still paddles well. It might still be to this day the best motorizing boat in the game.
Yeah.
The 140, not the 120, but yeah.
All right, I got some comments over here. Let's go ahead and read through these. This one comes in. Bass AF817, still my lifetime Yukon paddle kayak. Heck yeah. Jared Booth. This Chad, does Austin travel to rig kayaks? I'm about to get the Trova, and I don't know anything about rigging.
No, but he does them here. If you want to bring your boat here, let him rig them, and then we can take you fishing after the fact. So
heck yeah, he's my go-to. Anytime I got a question I can't figure out, I'm like, hey Austin. Soon he's gonna start charging me for all this time that I'm stuck on.
I mean, I hate to say it, but the pendulum has kind of swung to where what do they say? The sensei has been like, what is it? How does it work? The student has become the master. I ask him questions now about a lot of stuff, especially electronic. Yeah, he's good.
He's gonna be a force to reckon with here as soon as he stops editing all Chad's videos and starts editing his own. I love it.
That's my plan. You know,
there you go.
Hitting the tennis ball at the little girl, and that's mine.
This one's kind of off subject, but I'm going to allow it. Bass AF817. Question for Chad. Any thoughts on taking KBF internationally, south of the border?
Yeah, we've done that. We worked with Iron Kayaker. And I was talking to the Confederación de Brazil, the fishing federation in Brazil, or de Pesca, the fishing federation in Brazil. What I did is I have focused on bringing it back and reestablishing KBF to what it should have been, doubling down on the things we should have been doing, getting rid of the stuff that we shouldn't. So to answer the question, we're going to shore up our base first. I've been on the phone for the last 2 weeks with tourism destinations about bringing back live events. We're batting 1,000 on pretty much everybody that we've talked to. We're going to start releasing dates and locations and stuff in the next 2 weeks. I'm not going to do that holdback where we go, hey guys, in November 16th, we're going to announce this. No, we're going to start when we book an event, we're going to announce it. So you can start thinking about it, start planning for it, go pre-fish for it. But we will go back international. We have Canadian partnerships. You know, we could get the Mexican, they partner with Bass Nation just because I wasn't in a position to grow. And I told, Jerry, the guy that runs Iron Kayak, like do anything to move the ball forward, partner with Bass. That you don't have to partner with KBF or Bass. You can partner with both if it grows the sport. So yes, we will definitely be going back international. I want to go to Spain and Italy and bass fish. And ultimately on my bucket list I've been very blessed and got to do a lot of cool stuff. Before I die, I'm going kayak fishing for barramundi in Australia. So,
all right. I like it. All right. Good question. Thank you, Bass. This is another one. Well, it's a comment from Garrett Mowry. Just picked up the new Canoe U10 as my first kayak and absolutely love it. Highly recommend it. I'll be getting that one sent my way this summer. I'll be doing a review myself. I'm excited about that. Jed Morse, Chad, thanks to Chad and others, I decided to get the Bonafide SS127 for $1,260 new. Boom.
Still one of the best boats in the game. It sits in that dead zone to a certain extent between the RS117 and the PWR, and we promote the PWR and the XTR so much that people forget about it. In fact, I did my favorite 3 Bonafide kayaks and forgot about the SS127 like a dummy. And yeah, it's still one of the best boats on the market. It really is. And for that price, it's down $300 from when it released 9 years ago. So
yeah. Johnny Bennett over here saying I bought a Jackson Coosa to float the Flint River. Then I got obsessed with bass fishing. I like it. Low life. Wife has the Perception Pescador Pilot Pedal 12. Oh, this is a loaded question coming in from Brew Tank Outdoors. Chad, this one's for you. What does Chad think about inflatables like the Osprey? Hold on to your seatbelts, folks.
I'm a big fan. I have been kind of obsessed with inflatables for 10 years. Before the Osprey came out, I actually called Jeff Little and said, hey, I've got this inflatable design I want you to help me develop. And he's like, dude, I said, what? He goes, I've been working on an inflatable with Trey from Innovative Sportsman. So just because this is kind of how we do things, I was like, look, man, if that's the case, I'll back off. And so I gave it about 3 or 4 years. I actually did a walkthrough video of the Osprey. I think it's a great platform. It's kind of at the upper end of inflatables. I'm working on my own inflatable design that's a little bit more entry to mid-tier. Like you can buy it at an entry-level price, but you can upfit it to be more in that mid-tier. So I think the Osprey is a great boat. It performs well. They do better in rivers than pretty much any other watercraft. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of inflatables. I got 3 of them right outside the door right now that I'm putting through the paces.
Wyatt, have you ever been an inflatable?
Paddle boards and like low and stuff. I hadn't been in an Osprey or anything like that before.
All right. I just got my hands on the Sea Eagle Fish Sup 1210. Is that what it is, Chad? 1210? I think I got that right. Yep. And got into it down in southern Ohio, and that thing, it's just crazy. There's so much room on it. What I loved about it is that a lot of inflatables, you're sitting down in it, but with a Fish Sup, you're up high. Your line of sight is
they got a pontoon
insane.
Section.
Yeah.
And then you can put a seat pedestal on that. You're literally halfway standing up.
It's stupid. I let my buddy fish out of it for a day and a half. And I was just jealous because he was spotting bass and catching them because they're on beds, and I couldn't see them because of my line of sight. So it was pretty sick. So I look forward to getting more time in that.
It doesn't have initial stability or secondary stability. It's just got stability because it's just flat. You know what I mean? Man, it goes across the top of hydrilla and lily pads and stuff like that, like no other watercraft. It's pretty bad to the bone. It's unfortunate they're sold out now and have to wait for the repop of the next wave to come in. But that gives us an opportunity to make a few tweaks. When I say we, I mean Sea Eagle, because I partner with Sea Eagle to develop the boat that I want. And then simultaneous with that, I've gotten a few other of their boats, including a boat. All the knuckleheads that keep commenting in my comment section, oh, just buy a boat. So I did. I just got a boat. Now I got a boat and a little 9.9, and we're about to let her rip and see what happens.
I like it. All right, let's switch gears just a little bit here, Chad, because I've done some videos. It's been probably a couple of years since I posted these videos, but it was important in that time in my life because I couldn't afford a new fishing kayak, right? It just wasn't in the budget at the time. And so I really had to do my research on finding one on the marketplace, in Facebook Marketplace. And I bought them. I've driven a couple hours, I think both times, got my Native Slayer Propel 10 and I got my Bonafide P127 all off Marketplace. It was awesome. However, there are some risks when buying used. And so I wanted to kind of walk through that. If someone is thinking, you know what, I want to get into fishing kayak, I don't want to pay MSRP, not my budget, and I just want to get a little better kayak than what I would buy new. What are some things that people should inspect before buying a used kayak? Like, what are some of the could be hidden if you don't know what you're looking for?
So I used to take used boats in trade when I owned Hook One.
There we go.
And I learned a couple of really cool tricks. The number one place you're going to find damage is your scuppers. It's just the number one place to find. And it's also the number one place that may not be repairable unless you really know what you're doing. So this trick comes from testing fishing guides. And so what you do is you put a little load on the seat and you take a Q-tip and you wipe it around the entrance of the scupper and then just down inside the tube. And if you sit on the boat and that crack opens up, that Q-tip will catch on that crack and it'll pull a little bit of the fiber. You want to take that Q-tip and kind of turn it. Yeah. In fact, I knew you were going to ask something like this. So I actually have some Q-tips here ready to tell you this tip. So just take your Q-tip and kind of hold it and then just spin it backwards to where it kind of puffs up the actual cotton a little bit.
Yep.
And then just kind of puff it up like that. And then just wipe it around the scuppers, and it'll literally pull off, like that if there's a crack. And it's the number one thing that you're going to the other one is a weak hull or a thin hull. You could take a really high beam flashlight, put your head down inside it and shine it, and you can kind of go up and down the boat and you'll find really thin spots. You could actually get a thickness meter. They're not really expensive, and they're like $75 to $100. That same ones that the kayak companies use to see if there's any run problems in the mold, and you can kind of go over the boat looking for thin or weak spots. And then cracks in the seat area. Most of your cracks are going to come from the seat area. They're going to come from, people falling down on the back of the boat, and then the entry of the keel. If you ever watched any of my how to launch a fishing kayak videos, the number one thing that people do wrong is they set the boat on the ramp with the keel centered. So you're high centered and, wobbly, not to mention you're kind of rubbing that boat up and down. And everybody remembers sharpening a stick on concrete when you were a kid, spear for, cowboys and Indians or whatever. Same thing, except you're hitting the same spot over and over. Guys that load and unload their boat by taking the stern and picking it up in the back of their truck do the same thing. They're dragging that front little area, and that's a really weak spot that you can shine a light through. Get a doormat or a kitchen mat or a bathroom mat, throw it in the back of your truck, and when you get ready to load it, put your boat if this is the back of your truck, kind of put your boat at a 45, put the nose on the bath mat, and then pick the stern up and swing it around, and then you'll never damage the nose of your boat. And you can use that for changing clothes when you got wet clothes on and you want to change clothes before you get in your truck. So having a little bath mat or something in the back of the truck, it also works for loading it. So if you're loading it on the roof, you can throw it up over the door and have it come down, and it'll keep your boat. I think every fisherman should have a damn doormat or bath mat or some type of mat. The one I use, I roll up inside of a PVC pipe and stick it behind the seat of the truck. I've always got it. I don't think I've ever even really talked about it except for in my how to truck bed load a trailer or a kayak, and I haven't done that in probably 5 years. But the big ones are looking for cracks around the seat, looking for cracks around the scupper, excess wear on the hull, and the number one spot on the hull, other than the back of the keel, which will be pretty obvious, is that entry, right where that boat hits. And it's one of the harder places to fix. So, yeah, those would be the ones, the major ones to look for.
So when you got you ever get people trying to pull one up over on you? Like they knew something was up and you're like, hey, found that.
Oh yeah. I used to have trades where people would bring the boat in and ask me for a trade. And then I'd get so I had a cover that would go over the cockpit, and I'd stick a light in there and turn it on and then turn all the lights off, and all your weak spots are going to shine like a diamond in a billy goat's ass. So you couldn't really ever get one over on me. Not to mention, I have another trick. I don't like to tell people this one. So you can't show up to somebody's house and do this, but you take a wood rod dowel that fits the scupper perfectly, and you stick it in there and you have a little bit of leverage, and you just kind of move it around like you're churning butter. And as you're putting a little bit of pressure on it, you'll see if the cracks open up. 90% of the time, the reason people can't find cracks in their boat or that inexplicable water's coming in is because when you're sitting in the boat, you compress the hull, and that crack in the scupper opens up, water comes in. And then when you get out, there's water in the hole, but you can't figure out where it went in. So that's the number one place. And one of the other tricks I used to do is I would put a strap through the scuppers and around, and then I would cinch that strap down, which would kind of compress the scuppers, and then I could walk around and check, the top and bottom of both, then move it to the next set of scuppers. So there's a lot of little tricks like that. The wood rod dowel, I used to put a rope through the scuppers and put it in the stick and twist it like a tourniquet, just enough to kind of pull it a little bit to open up those cracks if they're there. And that's the same way that I fix them. I would open them up and heat them up slightly, and then when they're tacky, just let it go. And when it goes back together, it's almost like fix-a-flat. It like glues itself back together. But yeah, scuppers, those are the big ones.
So what are if you took in trades often, I'm sure there is kind of back to the earlier question, which kayaks hold its value? And so back when you were taking these in for trades, did you commonly see the same brands or same kayaks over and over and over again? I'm curious which ones they were. Now, granted, that said, things could change since then, but nonetheless.
We had a kayak called Lassie because it just kept coming back. People would buy it and use it as an entry-level boat, and then about 6 months later, they wanted to upgrade, so then they would bring it back and trade it to get another boat. So about the 7th or 8th time it came back, my partner in the store at the time, Chris Stewart, said, "Man, is that Lassie?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "That kayak right there." I said, "Lassie?" He's like, "Yeah, something just keeps coming back." And I was like, "Oh, dude, that's funny." So we named it Lassie, and it came back 2 or 3 more times. But to answer the question I think you're asking is the ones that came back the most but were good trade value were like the Pescador from Wilderness Systems, the entry-level boats from Jackson Kayak. I always did really well on those. They always kind of stood the test of time. Even their livery boats like the Riviera and some of those boats, I would take them on trade and use them for people that wanted like a kind of an entry-level river boat. Yeah. The ones that were the absolute worst, the ones that I almost never, the only ones I ever like fully rejected, I would sometimes make somebody an offer that said, "Look, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time, effort, and energy to recondition and repurpose this thing. So it's only worth this amount to me. You could probably sell it for more." And so I had a few people that walked away from those kind of deals. Yeah. The only ones I ever really rejected, and I'm not throwing shade, and I'm actually going to do some reviews of these boats. But the ones that did the least, I'm trying to think how to say this correctly. The ones that didn't seem to stand the test of time were the thermoform boats from Pelican. Okay. Those boats always seem to have really bad wear spots. And the downside of those boats is there's not a real easy self-repair type thing. I would do some stuff where I did tenacious tape and did some of those things to repair them like temporarily and epoxy over them to repair them temporarily. But that thermoform stuff is light. It is pretty durable. You just can't drag it up and down the boat ramp like you can with a rotomolded boat. Right. I did a video one time where I drug a kayak 15.2 miles. Yeah. In the video, and I still paddled that boat later. You couldn't drag a Pelican 150 yards without having holes through the hull. So that's probably the worst of the boats that got brought back to me were those Pelicans and Sun Dolphins, and those boats that are thermoformed where they're like sealed down the side.
Now, we started talking Sun Dolphins. We all need to calm down about how we talk about the Sun Dolphin right now.
I completely forgot about that brand until you just mentioned it.
I don't need to forget. I need to walk out my back door and it's sitting right there.
So yeah, those were the ones that were not the best. Most of the premium brands or the more kind of American-made brands, even if they had like secondary parts on them that were imported, like the seats and handles and all that kind of stuff, there would be seat issues, there would be strap issues, there would be handle issues. Those are all things I could change really easily and kind of refurbish the kayak to get, to turn a profit on it and to feel comfortable sending it back out with somebody to go fishing in. But hull-wise, from an integrity standpoint, I would say Pelican was probably the worst.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. So this is if someone brings it to you, right? Obviously, you can spend as much time as you want. But when you're going to someone's house, like taking all that time, checking all the screws and turning it over, you're just essentially telling people, screw it. Just take all the time you want. Do all the tests you need to do. Flip that thing over. I think a lot of people, they show up to someone's house and they feel awkward. And I've never had anybody like inspect a used kayak. Of course, I'm not going to rip them off, but I've never actually had anybody. They're just like, oh, pedal drive works. Oh, looks good. I'll take it. And they hand me thousands of dollars and they drive away. And so I've never actually seen someone take a significant amount of time and look at a kayak before buying it. So maybe something you might want to consider doing. So here's a question.
I have a thing called that'll help you remember it. You know, when you hear about cars getting damaged, there's this thing called hail damage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do hull, accessories, integrity, looking for, you know, cracks and things like that. And then the L is how much lower is the price than the retail price. So if you'll remember the hail principle, when you're going to inspect it, looking for hail damage, is the hull in good shape? What accessories are they including with it? Is there any integrity issues? Again, not just the hull, but like, is the seat frame cracked? Is there major damage? And then how much lower is the price than what you're paying for it? Now, here's something that I don't hear talked about a lot. On a really expensive boat, even in states with not that high of a sales tax, you also got to think about the fact that you save a pretty good chunk of change on sales tax, and the negotiation's always away from retail. But if in your mind you really know what you're really saving, especially on some of the $1,800 to $2,200 boats, if they're selling it for a couple $100 under retail, that's actually more like $500 or $600 in retail, depending on where you live, because you're saving the retail price reduction and you're not paying tax on it. They may have to pay tax on it. You may have to claim some kind of tax on it if you register it for a motor or something when you get back to your home state. But for the most part, that's another variable that I see people kind of overlooking in the negotiation process when it comes to selling or buying a boat, is you're not having to pay that sales tax.
No, I like it. We have 90 live right now. If you have yet to do so, please hit that like button, give some extra yardage out of this. Chad, how can you tell if a kayak was stored improperly? And I guess the follow-up question is this: are like faded kayaks a red flag for you?
So there's two things. Mm-hmm. One, if you can organize a demo, always try before you can buy. Have them meet you at a boat ramp.
Yep.
I've done this in some of my videos before. I personally would not buy a used kayak if they wouldn't meet me at the water and let me do this. It's called the push test. I put the boat on the water, I tie a rope to the back of it, and I just push it. And if there's no weight irregularities and that boat turns, you've got a warped hull. So as long as there's not any like an anchor wizard or an anchor on one side or something crazy to make that the case, if you set that boat down, take the seat out, take everything out, and just push it. Sometimes I tie a fishing line to it and push it and then reel it back in with a rod. If you push that boat and it turns on its own, help him load it back up, and then thank him for his time and carry your ass back to the house. Because when the keel's twisted, it's going to be a nightmare. It is absolutely going to be a nightmare to paddle. It's going to be a nightmare to motor. You're going to sit and spin. Everything about that boat is going to suck. And nobody talks about the push test because nobody really wants to breach that subject. Tie a rope to the back of it so that the rope don't create drag in the water to make it go straight, like paracord or something thin you can hold up out of the water, and just push it. It'll only take a few feet, and that's how much it'll turn, or it'll go straight. And if it goes straight, then throw the seat in, throw some accessories on it, and then paddle it for real. But if it don't, run.
Yeah.
Red flag. Now, on color, it depends on the color. Your reds, your purples, your really whatever in that red and violet spectrum, they fade faster. So they turn like, they look like you washed your drawers with something pink, or your t-shirt with something pink, and they got that tingy color to it. So those I wouldn't worry as much about. What you're more looking for is there enough oil still left in the plastic to reconstitute the boat? So what I would do is tell the person, hey, I want to flash test this boat. You can flip the hull over. You can do it on the side, but take yourself a little benzene torch with you and just kind of fan it. Don't point it directly at the boat and burn a hole in it, but just kind of fan it.
Sold.
If some clear coat comes to the top, then you can flash that whole boat and it'll reconstitute. It'll improve the look. And sometimes people want to sell the boat because it looks bad. And if you know the trick of flashing a boat, which is to take a flame and kind of kiss it to bring some of that oil back to the surface and then hit it with 303. The other thing you could do is just take some 303 with you and a sponge and spray that sponge down with 303 and wipe it down and then wipe it with a dry rag. And if that brings the color back, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's grainy, if it's chalky, if it's oxidized, if flashing it or putting 303 on it, if it just soaks up the 303 like a sponge, do that same thing I said with the rope. Help your buddy load it back up and get the hell up out of there, because now it's down to the core plastic integrity is gone.
Yeah. So is it just people are storing these things? Obviously, they're storing them outside. Back to like the keel, if it's going, left or right, and then it's leaving it in hot temperatures and sitting.
Man, I'm going to tell you the number one culprit for what I call the twisted keel.
Mm-hmm.
The twisted keel and a kayak has no sex appeal. You know how they say twisted steel and sex appeal? Well, a twisted keel has no appeal, right? Is people will put it on sawhorses. They put the sawhorses too far apart. And when they do that, then the boat gets some water in it and it kicks off to one side. Now you have the weight on that part of the keel disproportionately. And then what happens is it kind of bends that keel slightly off of center. And, the number one way to store a boat is vertical. And you could argue with me all you want to about whether or not, because every time I talk about it, people are, oh, you're wrong, man. Here's the boat. You can argue all you want to. The number one way to store the boat is vertical. Any opinion other than that is wrong. I'm going to say this one more time. The best way and the number one way to store a kayak is vertical. Every other way is secondary to that. And you could argue with me. You'll push a lot of hot air past your nose and be wrong. I'm just being real with you, because there's not a single kayak company in the world that doesn't have all their kayaks stored vertical when they're waiting to ship them. Flat on the deck is probably the second best way to do it. And then with some type of straps that support it, hanging vertical on the wall is another one. Two things you should never do is have your straps or your braces more than 60 inches apart. I don't care how long the boat is. I don't care what the scenario is. 60 inches should never be exceeded, because you're going to get a sag in the hull. I don't care. It's a universal truth. If the boat's 12 feet or if the boat's 16 feet. So you can be smaller than that, or you can multi-strap it. If a boat's over 12 feet, I would want 4 straps on it, literally 4. The other way that you can kill a boat is to put the rope through the scuppers. It seems like the most genius way to do it.
It's not going nowhere.
And then hang it by that. That's the absolute number one way to jack your boat up, because you're going to compress one pontoon. And then when you get out there, that boat's going to want to turn that direction because that pontoon's a little skinnier. It's like think about it like this. It's like having a little wheel on one side of a bicycle, or a 3-wheeler or 4-wheeler, and then 2 big wheels on the other side. Which way are you going to turn? You're going to turn towards the little wheel. Same thing. So just don't do that.
Yeah.
But honestly, the biggest reason is that people let water get in them. That water weight is 8 pounds a gallon, man.
Mm-hmm.
When you store that thing over the winter and just water kind of gets in there or whatever, and it creeps and creeps and creeps, the sawhorse storage method is the worst. Absolutely worst. If you really know what you're doing, you can actually store a kayak on sawhorses. I hate to tell people how to do it, because as soon as I tell them, then I know they're going to do it. But get a wood rod,
on their gunnels.
Get a wood rod down and run it through a pool noodle, and then set your kayak on top of it so that it supports the entire hull. Or get a piece of bar stock, from Home Depot pipe, put it on the sawhorses and put the boat on that so it supports it the full length of the gunnel. That's about the only way I'd recommend it. The other way that I would recommend is storing it on a sawhorse is don't. Like ever.
Solid recommendation.
Just don't.
Wyatt's like, I don't need to ever store my kayaks. I'm in it every other day.
And I'm not throwing shade at anybody that's done this. These are all things we've all done. I've learned a lot of the stuff I consider expertise now by being the dumbass that did it wrong. Trust me. I've pulled boats out. When I first got blessed with the ability to have multiple kayaks, I was the dumbass that leaned them up against the side of the house in the back, because I thought, I don't want it to fill up with water and stuff. And then I get out there and one pontoon's compressed completely in. The boat's constantly wanting to turn left. I had a boat I nicknamed Lefty, because every time I went fishing, all that thing wanted to do was turn left. So I've learned a lot of this stuff the hard way. Plus, I owned a shop for a long time, and people would bring me their boats, and I would do like, how when a dog looks, I go, how in the hell did you do this? And they're like, oh, yo, man, it's been stored perfectly. You know what the first thing that I do when somebody tells me that they've stored their kayak perfectly? I go to their Facebook because most people take a picture of half the stuff in their life and start scrolling through their photo album, and I can generally find a picture of their boat stored in properly and go, "Nah, dude, here's your culprit right here." You know.
Yeah. If you're just chiming in, we are talking about buying used kayaks and what to look out for. And Chad has just dropped a bunch of truth nuggets for us, help you become a more informed buyer out there. Because most of the time, one more really important one. I get this a lot. In fact, in the video that I just released, there are the internet experts in the comment section telling me I'm wrong. You can argue with me all you want to. You're just going to be wrong. A seat is an integral part of the structural rigidity of your fishing kayak. If it is a frame seat, if it's one of them cotton or fabric types that just sit on the boat and you strap it in, not so much. But if it's designed to have a frame seat in it that locks into place, it's designed to have that seat in it. So if you transport it or store it without that seat in there and you compress that boat, you are causing problems that are going to manifest themselves long term. Store the boat with the seat, fold the seat back, cover it itself, put a trash bag around it. If you're going to store it for a long period of time, get some saran wrap and saran wrap it, put some, rat poison in there, put some roach poison in there, put some things in there to protect it from rodents. Mm-hmm. Like I'll tell you straight up, you Google what you spray something with to keep insects off of it. Take a bottle squirter, fill it up half with coffee grounds, shake it up with water and spray your boat down. Bugs won't jack with it. And then there's other things that you can do for rodents that are pretty similar. But store your boat and transport your boat with the seat in it. The number one reason I think so many Hobies cracked is they started putting them on trailers. They started taking the seat out to get under the rod box. And they put them on there and then they ratchet them down and it squeezes the boat. Then they unflex it and squeeze it and unflex it and squeeze it and unflex it and squeeze it. Then when you sit on it, you've already weakened that area and then it cracks at the feet. I don't think it's just from the feet. I think it's from a combination of how the boats were transported and then adding that pressure to that spot that's already weakened. So transport your boat and store your boat if it has a frame seat with the seat in it. All right. So here's a question I was kind of pondering. What is the lifespan of a fishing kayak if it's taken care of, right? Generally speaking, like you're using it, but not like wildly abusing it, but you store it correctly. You put the 303, you use it like a weekend warrior. And let's say it's a generally upper tier fishing kayak. What are we looking at?
I mean, I'm going to get a lot of disagreement on this one, but forever. Your handles, your straps, your seats, some of that fabric, some of that stuff is going to be problematic. If you don't drag your boat excessively, like we do, because we're spoiled and blessed and it's convenient.
And we're testing these things. That's what we do for a living. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you keep it every 6 months, throw some 303 on it. You don't store it improperly for life. I mean, I've got a boat out there that I bought back from a guy that is the original commander that I gave to John from Yak Attack. And he ultimately gave it to this guy. And this guy found my signature on the inside of it when I used to sign boats when I rigged them and called me up and said, "Hey, I'm transferring to Hawaii in the military. I can't take this boat with me. Do you want it?" And I bought it back from him. And that boat's 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
And I could go paddle it tomorrow. So if properly taken care of, other than maybe the accessories, the seat components, the handles, some of the stuff that could dry rot. Hey, listen, spray your seat down with 303.
I grant you 303. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everything can be protected by 303. There's other similar versions. 303 is by far the best stuff out there. Dry silicone, the stuff that's friction. But yeah, I don't think there is a life cycle. I think it depends on how well you take care of it or how much you abuse it. But if well taken care of, it can last forever.
Yeah. Jared Booth 9382 has got a question. He said, "What's 303?"
303 is an aerospace protectant. It was originally designed to protect and manage some of the parts like Lexan that are like cockpit domes and things like that to protect really expensive investments. And then they found out that some of the people were starting to use it to protect their cars, and they're basically using it like armor all. And then I think the light bulb went off, and they decided that there was a commercial application to it, so they made it available to the general public. But it's an aerospace protectant.
It's expensive, but it's solid.
Expensive, but it's worth.
Yeah.
And don't spray it and let it run all over the place because you're wasting money. Spray it on a rag, preferably like the what are those rags called? It's like a terry cloth. It's like a good Lord, I got it right.
It's not gonna suck up a ton of it.
Yeah, and it spreads it really nice. Don't use a sponge unless you're saturating the sponge with it to wipe the whole boat down. That's a great way to do it. But yeah, it's the best. It literally is. I use it on my truck. I use it on my wrap. I use it on a lot of other stuff. And you can help reconstitute something that looks bad with it. I sprayed on my black packs.
I sprayed on my seat.
I did a fade test earlier this year. I should show it, but I just did a fade test where I put 2 black packs out in the sun, and one had both of them had orange lids. I sprayed one with 303 and one without it. The one with the 303 literally looks like brand new. The one without it looks like a peach color, like a weird, like a weird off orange, like the color that UT fans wear, University of Tennessee fans wear. That you're like, that's not orange. So yeah, 303 is a smart investment for pretty much everything.
Yeah, when I bought my hot tub like 10 years ago, the guys installed it. It's like I wouldn't use anything other than this, and they put down 303. I was like, all right, you guys know what you're talking about. All right, what
303 does a good job on. Your rods are coated in epoxy, or they're infused with epoxy, even if they're natural blanks. Spray your rods down about every 6 months, or spray a rag and wipe them down. It'll blow you away how much damage your rods can get over time from UV damage, but how you can pretty much make it bulletproof with 303.
All right, that's a solid tip. Thank you, Chad. All right, let's move on a little. Let's move away from buying a used fishing kayak, and let's talk about, hey, I'm looking just to buy a fishing kayak. I don't need to buy used. I've saved up. I'm just ready to pull the trigger. However, it is information overload. Everyone, their mom has a video about a review about the latest and greatest, and so let's just start breaking this down a little bit, and let's talk about features, right? What features, in your opinion, are mostly hype, but you keep seeing them? You put it on kayak after kayak after kayak. Might drive you a little crazy. Is there anything like that?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Go. Send it, Chad. Name names.
You know what's crazy is I'm the guy that came up with tracks.
Okay.
And I think now we've over-tracked our kayaks. There's too much track. What are you going to do with 37 feet of track? You know what I mean? Like, you don't need that much track. You're unnecessarily adding expense, a little bit of extra weight. It's just too much. So I think we've over-tracked the boats.
Okay.
I think we've overdone the pod thing. And again, I'm the guy that came up with the pod thing. So we've kind of overdone that. I was the guy that came up with traction pads. And I think to a certain extent, we've overdone the traction pads. They're traction pads and they're quiet. I get it that they can be aesthetic, but there's people that treat the traction pads and the foam EVA like Frank's Red Hot. They put that shit on everything. And I guess it's fine, but you're just adding a lot of unnecessary expense to your boat. If you're doing it for it looks bad, just do a wrap or do a decal. But that much traction pad on your boat is still a little silly to me. We've overdone it with bridges, and I'm a bridge guy. I got 2 of them. I got 2 crossbars on my boat. But some of them have just got to the point where they're just retarded. Like, they just don't make no sense to me. Like, you can't even fish around it. You got to like stick out to the side to make a cast, and other than that, I mean, that'd be about it for me.
How about cup holders? Because
I've always said cup holders are dumb.
I've just reviewed the New Canoe Unlimited Max. It has 4 of them.
Yeah. Here's where they make sense. If you're putting it in the boat in a place where you need the geometry and the structure because of the angular change, and you might as well put something useful there, it kind of makes sense. But a cup holder that doesn't drain on a fishing kayak is a petri dish for growing like mosquito larvae. It's a petri dish for turning into a little cesspool of algae and other crazy stuff.
Oh, it's like flush mount rod holders.
It's a breeding ground.
And that's where I put my hooks whenever they lose fish. That's where I put them in timeout.
It's going to soak up it's going to jack up your cork on your rod handles if you set them there. You're going to go to put your boat on a roof rack or take it off, and you're going to spill, swamp water in your face. I love the cup holders from Yak Attack because you can put it where you want it, but I just think cup holders are they're kind of dumb because most of them are designed for like a 12-ounce soda or beer can.
My coffee cup never fits in it.
Taking like a Yeti bottle, a Nalgene bottle, or some type of bigger bottle. So I'd love somebody to make one big enough for that bottle and then go, I think Crescent did on one or two of their boats. Yep. But yeah, I think drink holders are kind of dumb.
That's what I love about the Yak Attack trash trap.
In your black pack or in your hatch, because if they're out in the sun, shit's like hot in a minute. You know what I mean? Yeah, don't make any sense to me.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna be rod holders.
Yeah, the flush mount rod holders always have bugs and larvae in it.
Yeah, I hate flush mount rod holders from the standpoint that if you put them on there stock, then if somebody doesn't like them, they got to go out of their way to take them out and put a delete plate or something. Yeah. If you should include them if you want to include them as a value proposition, and there should be a little note that says, if you can't install a flush mount rod holder, you should take up golf or crochet or some type of other thing in your life, because you shouldn't be operating a motor vehicle to get to the water or out on the water by yourself. If you can't, can we add that to KFast? If you can't install a flush mount rod holder, you should just not do this.
Just alienate as many people.
But I hate flush mounts because by default they're adding. And here's the thing that people don't think about: a flush mount rod holder costs about $6 to $7 retail. Costs about $2 to $3 wholesale or distributor. Mm-hmm. But when you put it on a kayak, you're paying for the labor, you're paying for the markup, you're paying for the time, all that stuff. And then what happens is, by the time that gets to retail, it's triple, because you got to add that value from the manufacturer to the distributor / retailer to the consumer. So it's doubled or tripled. So that $20 set of rod holders cost you $80 at retail.
That you're going to get rid of and put a delete plate on.
Yeah. Or they're they're sticking out from the kayak to make you look like a tuner trawler. You're going to catch them on your back cast, and they're going to catch on every tree you pass. That was one kind of cool thing about the Path, is they were the first relatively inexpensive rod or kayak where the rods were inside the width of the boat in the flush mount. So at least they did that. But I hate flush mounts unless you want them there yourself, and then you can put it there.
All right.
And I know Wyatt's kind of smiling through the pain right now because Old Town puts more flush mount rod holders on their stuff than anybody in the damn industry.
I've had a conversation with them about that.
They even put like a forward-facing rod holder on there. Oh, it's to hold your rod.
That one I like.
Yeah, that's what your armpit's for, or your PFD, or just lay the rod down. Come on, man.
All right, so let's switch from paddle kayaks and talk a little bit. Let's move into the pedal drive, and then let's move into the motors. And so, Chad, I know you've done a video on this. You call it the pedal drive tax. And so let's walk through what are the pros and cons of a pedal drive system. There's probably a lot of people out there like, hey, you know what? I could do the paddle thing. I don't really want to. I like the idea of pedaling. What would you say to that person?
Well, I'm of two minds. One, I hear people talking about exercise and kayaking. You don't get any exercise from paddling a kayak. I'm sorry. If you're going to stay at a pace to get your heart rate above the target heart zone for like 18 minutes, you're going to get into a cardio benefit and you're going to do something with it. If you want to get exercise, a pedal drive kayak is actually real exercise because you're activating the largest muscle group on your body. You're engaging your core. You're doing a lot of stuff that you can truly get a workout from pedaling a kayak. But I think there's a lot of limitations. I love the overused hands-free fishing because I love to video somebody fishing from a pedal drive kayak and then count the number of times they touch their rudder handle in a minute. And they're like, man, that hands-free fishing sure did work out. You touched your rudder handle 26 times in a minute, constantly reaching down and making a micro adjustment. And to me, that's not hands-free. A motor can be hands-free. Your pedal drive, if you're maybe like in a individual cast, can be hands-free. But as soon as you need to make any type of adjustment, it's no longer hands-free. So I think we overhype that. I think that's probably the biggest lie ever told in kayak fishing is that pedal drives are hands-free. Watch a person the next time you're fishing, or think about it the next time you're fishing. If you did the whole drinking game where you like drink every time somebody touched their rudder handle, you'd be unconscious 3 minutes into a video of watching somebody fish. So
I would even argue that motors, even with like a wizard, is not hands-free. I can't tell you how much I'm adjusting the propulsion of how slow or how fast I'm going, especially in those windy days, even using a wizard. And so
that's because you've primarily the vast majority of your experience has been with a Newport. Once you get this torpedo a little bit more in your life, you'll realize you can micro adjust that so low.
Or you can. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Newport.
And you can then be hands-free. Like I can fish a bank for a mile and never touch the throttle, never touch the motor, never touch anything.
If it's not windy. I've had some rough days.
I'll just set the motor and kind of crab into it. And you can it takes a while to get that where you're using your, like with a motor, I can actually lean the boat. I call it cheeking, put a little butt cheek in. And because the boat is lean, like I was talking about with the big tires and the small tires, because the boat's lean and the prop's lean, it'll turn the boat. When I'm standing up, I run the torpedo standing up quite a bit. And I just steer the boat by putting my weight on one foot or the other. And I can fish for hours and touch the throttle 2-3 times.
Yeah, I would agree if it's not windy. I've been out on some windy days where I need to keep moving that back and forth. But for the most part, I mean, Chad and I are not saying that
it's still less, in my opinion.
Yeah, less. Just like a pedal drive is a lot less than if you're paddling. And so that we're getting a little off course here, but 100%. So keep going on the pros and cons of the pedal drive.
The reason I call it a pedal drive tax is because boats got bigger to accommodate pedal drives. You know, when you're sitting on a pedal drive and you're doing left, right, you're putting all your weight to one side and then all your weight to the other side. So the boats had to naturally get a little bit bigger. Plus the pedal drives were the most popular for a long period of time. Hobie was the first to step out into that little boat category to where other manufacturers chased that boat big enough to put things like rod holders, horizontal rod holders, in-hole transducers, and things like that. So because those were the boats that had the most volume and had the most ability to add batteries and electronics and all those things that anglers wanted, they were the ones that naturally anglers gravitated towards. Mm-hmm. So when companies like New Canoe came out with the Unlimited, and then Bonafide came out with the PWR, and then ultimately the XTR, it kind of validated the point that a lot of people were buying these pedal drive boats to just put a motor on them. I also run into a lot of anglers at boat ramps, and I can't tell you how many times I've run into people with a Native Titan, a Hobie, an Old Town, where they have pedals, but they've thrown a motor on it, and they leave the pedal drive in the truck or it's at the house somewhere. So to me, that's the pedal drive tax, because you're paying for the pedal drive itself. You're paying for the rudder handle, the installation, all of those things that cost money at the manufacturer's level, which run the price of the boat up pretty substantially. And so if you're not going to actively pedal and you're only buying that boat because it's a boat and you think, oh man, I'm going to have the pedal drive as a backup in case my motor fails. How about just buy a better motor that ain't going to fail on you? And then I've literally seen and been with tons of pedal drive failures. I've towed people with pedal drive failures, mostly Hobie, not throwing shade, but back when the 360 first came out, there was a lot of people that had their drive seize up and break, and the little band broke in it. I've towed a lot of people in a pedal drive kayak. I've maybe towed 3 or 4 whose motor shut down, and that was either like a Motor Guide XI3 that the person used shitty wire and it caught on fire.
Yep.
Or like a Newport. And I'm not throwing shade, but I've had a lot of people had those motors fail, or they've said, oh, you get to use any battery you want to. So they buy a cheap battery. Now you got this really expensive motor and a cheap battery, and then the battery fails. How's that motor working for you with that cheap ass battery? It's not, So to me, with Torqeedo, you get that advanced, lightweight, compact, waterproof, all the technology from torque tracks and your range and your RPM and all that kind of stuff, but you get a more dependable lithium battery. I've been with Torqeedo. I was the first person in the United States to put a Torqeedo on a fishing kayak.
Okay.
And I've to this day not had a failure except for a motor that I backed into a tree and I just kind of felt like, this thing's going to eventually fail. But I used it for another 5 or 6 months. I went to a trade show and the rep saw that the head was cockeyed and was like, what the hell happened right there? I was like, I backed it into a tree. Dude, you can't be showing this motor off like this. I kind of thought it was a cool story. I backed it so much in a tree and I'm still using it.
It works.
And then I left my battery on top of the truck one time. I was on a boat ramp. I had pulled into the one spot. This guy pulls up. That's not the staging area. The staging area is over there. Literally looked over there. There's a sign that said staging area, but I wasn't going to argue with him because he was real aggressive. So I jumped in the truck and drove away. And when I was turning, I heard it sliding across the roof. And I then saw it in my rearview mirror, hit the parking lot and roll off into the little edge ditch grass thing. I picked that up, put some Gorilla Tape on it. Same thing. I was using it. Torqeedo saw it in a video. Dude, what do you got Gorilla Tape on your battery for? I'm like, well, the little handle thing, it fell off the top of the truck and broke, but it still works fine. They're like, dude, you cannot be using these things like this. And to me, that was just a testament to their durability. So get a better motor. You know what I mean? Instead of paying $2,000 for a backup pedal drive, I'd rather you get like a $99 little tiller handle trolling motor and just stick it inside your boat.
There you go. There you go. We have 110 live right now. If you have yet to do so, please hit that like button. So, Chad, you would say the most reliable propulsion system right now is the Torqeedo Ultralight. Now, really quick, there's like in that mid range, which that range is actually getting pretty close to Torqeedo over the years, right? It used to be more of a gap between a Newport and a Torqeedo, but that it's getting closer because Newports are getting a bit more expensive. There's not a lot of competition in the kayak fishing space, right? You got Bixby, you have Newport, you have Torqeedo.
No, now you got the Garmin. You've also got Move from PowerPole moving in with the most expensive unit. You've got the Lowrance Recon that we're doing the prototype, the final software validation right now. And then you've got Water Snake. I mean, they're all not popular, but there are quite a few. There's the Texas Paddle Company that makes the one that you attach to your rudder. There's quite a few motor options, more so. There's 3 that are mainstream, Torqeedo, Newport, and then whatever bow mount you're using, whether that's the Tarova. And then, of course, I've said this in a video. I'll say it again. I'm not sponsored by them, and they're actually a competition to people I am sponsored by. But the best package, motorized, ready to go out the door, is the Old Town Autopilot. If you don't want to think, if you don't want to rig and order a bunch of stuff and piece part it together, and you want it to be a system, the Old Town Autopilot is a pretty badass system. Actually, the best boat they make, and Wyatt may disagree with this one, but the best boat they make is an MK106. That little sumbitch is a ATV of fishing kayaks. You can get in it. It's got a jet throttle thing, just like a Torqeedo has. The motor's a little bit more up in the hull. It's so wide and short that it floats over the top of everything. I mean, you got to go try to stick that thing. You can run through lily pads and hydrilla and whatever. That might be the sportiest little boat out there in the game. But as far as propulsion reliability, advanced, best weedless prop in the game, all that stuff, best warranty, best customer service, it's Torqeedo, hands down. And it used to make sense. Oh, they're the most expensive. Well, the Garmin Force Current is more expensive than the Torqeedo, and then you still got to buy the battery. So it's got some cool features. I think the wireless pedals are pretty cool, but you pay extra for that. I think the spot lock is hit or miss because, some people are like, why would you ever spot lock from the back? Well, the same reason you put a power pole down in the back. As long as that situation makes sense, I think they should have done a spot lock version and a non-spot lock version so you could have a lower cost, just a motor. And they may do that in the future, but there's a lot more competition now than just Newport and Torqeedo and Bixby. There's some other stuff out there. And I've heard that E-Propulsion's now coming into the game. Jeff Little partnered with them, who is a long time Torqeedo guy. So he's got a ton of knowledge. So it's about to get sporty in the world of boat.
What I meant about competition is that, like, it feels like when Newport stops on their price range, Torqeedo then picks up. When Bixby stops, then Newport kind of picks up. There's not a lot of, and then whenever Torqeedo stops, Garmin picks up. There's not a lot of overlap.
There's no vertical integration.
100%.
Right.
That's what I meant.
Kind of in their little silos.
Like, when's it going to start overlapping?
If I wasn't under NDA, I would tell you.
Well, there you have it.
Real soon.
I'll be calling Chad afterwards. I'm just kidding. NDA is NDA. All right. So here's the interesting thing. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many videos I see, and it kind of drives me crazy, of what actually makes a kayak stable. And so many videos of guys get in the kayak and they start rocking it back and forth, like, oh, look how stable this kayak is. That's not the definition of stability. So walk us through, and I'm kind of looking for more like a scientific answer. When people are looking for a stable kayak, what you're not looking for is someone on YouTube getting in a kayak and trying to flip it over. Like, it'll tell you something, but it's not going to tell you the full story. So now we're kind of getting into hull design, right? And so that's kind of where I want you to kind of answer this.
Yeah. So
I feel like it's an airplane. You guys hear that? What's going on?
There's two really different approaches to stability. They're stable by wide, and then they're stable by design. The Jackson Big Rig is a good example of a stable by wide. The Bonafide SS-127 is a perfect example of stable by design. The Old Town Autopilot's somewhere in the middle. Okay, the Old Town Autopilot's initial popularity was so popular because the hull's flat, the cockpit's open, and when you sit down in it and you do that sit and wiggle, you feel secure. Okay, that's initial stability. Initial stability is how much the boat wiggles initially. Secondary stability is if you have this hull design that's like a pontoon on the outer side and most of your volume is out away from center line. In a lot of cases, you have a chine line, and that chine line is that line down the side of the boat. Now, there's a chine line, and a chine is an angular change. And then there's a parting line. A parting line is they did a crappy job at the factory of removing that with a parting line tool and then flashing it. But that line down the side is not a seam, and it's not a chine. A chine is an angular change, a hard angular change. And so as a boat gets pushed into the water, let's say that this is the chine, this is the bottom of the boat, this is the edge of the boat, and the top's up here. The more you lean and the more boat you put in the water, the more you angle it, the more displacement you're getting, the more stable it gets. That's secondary stability. So secondary stability is, to me, the most dependable. It's that recovery stability where you get to the side and it goes and the boat pushes you back. It's kind of like if you take a basketball and you start pushing under the water, there's very little resistance in the beginning. So if you started pushing a basketball down, it would be very initially unstable. But the more you get towards like center line of the basketball and you've got more of the basketball in the water, it's really stable because you've hit that secondary stability because you got more volume. So if a boat is initially unstable, meaning it's not sitting in the water to where both pontoons are touching, or the whole water line is down low and you need to lean it over, that designer is trying to achieve better performance, better efficiency, still have the stability if you need it by lowering your what's called wetted surface. Wetted surface, the fancy word for it is coefficient of friction, which basically is a fancy word for drag. So the less wetted surface you have, the less drag you have, the more, again, all things being equal, the more efficient the boat is. You can get into the same thing with CG and, how the boat sits in the water, because, if you angle the boat and then you've got a bunch of wetted surface in the back here, even though you have poor initial instability, you still have a lot of drag. So if you balance all that and you get a really good high center boat where it feels initially unstable, but if you lean just a little bit till you hit that secondary stability, then you're going to have a better performing boat with still having great stability. Of the boats on the market that I can think of that have the best kind of balance of the two, would be the New Canoe Unlimited and the Old Town Autopilot. They're the two. They split the difference between initial stability and secondary stability.
Yep.
Even like the Bonafide XTR has a little bit of initial instability for better performance so that you can still paddle it. That's actually why he made the deck lower and angled so you could still paddle it from that higher seat and it would be in a wider boat. But when you really lean it over, that pontoon hull kicks in and you get a lot of secondary stability. With a boat that's designed for a combination of the two, you actually get to that tipping point faster, where if you get way out, it's kind of like stepping on one end of the skateboard and it'll shoot out from under you. So those two same boats that I talked about, the Autopilot and the New Canoe, you could get to the point where you're past the point of no return. And as long as if you don't fall off the boat, you can take the boat over with you. Whereas some of the bigger boats, like your Hobie Pro Angler, your Autopilot 136, not the 120, the bigger one, because the tank well carries out so far and it's wider in the back. It's kind of like a wrestler when they spread their feet apart and sprawl to keep you from being able to take them down. You get that stability out in the back. And then the SS 127 was a really good boat, like I said, where we tried to maximize that secondary stability, but still have a low wetted surface, so the boat still paddled well for a 12-foot kayak. And another boat company that does a pretty good job of kind of splitting the difference is Feel Free. They call it the trihedral, where they've got the center pontoon and the two outer pontoons with the channels down the middle. It would have been better to kind of open the middle up and be a little bit more catamaran style, but they wanted a shorter boat to track better. So they threw the keel in there and the two pontoons.
Yeah.
And honestly, Crescent does a really good job also of splitting the difference, where you've got some performance, you've got some secondary stability. Wilderness Systems used to be the best in the game at it. And they just kind of, Wilderness Systems is like that girl that you knew in high school that was smoking hot, and then you saw her at your 20-year reunion and you're like, what the hell happened to you? Oh my God. You know,
whenever Chad starts something where he says something is like, something ridiculous is coming out of his mouth next. 100%. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So anyway,
so here's a question from
stability question.
It does. Stephen Sturgeon says, does length contribute to stability?
100%. It contributes to stability in the standpoint of, if the stable features continue throughout the hull, then yeah. If you got a super wide boat in the center and you make a little skinny tail on it, making it longer, it ain't going to make it more stable. If you carry the pontoon, the volume to the stern, it gets way, way, way more stable. Just like what Hans did with the XTR. Is he basically took the PWR concept, put a bulbous nose on it to shed waves and shed water and all that kind of stuff, and then continue the volume further back in the stern, because they're literally the same length. So when you think about it, that's a perfect illustration of the length can carry more stability or the length can't carry stability, because the XTR is so much more stable than the PWR, just because it carries that volume throughout more of the length of the boat.
Yeah. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. We're at 1:20, and we'll start landing the plane in a little bit. But I got a few more questions for Chad. Chad, what is the worst buying mistake you've ever made when it comes to a kayak?
Buying everything.
What's the worst kayak that you've ever been in?
The worst kayak that I've ever been in? Now, I got to qualify this question before I answer it, so I don't get strung up on social media. So is it the worst just meaning all things being equal, it's the worst? Or is it the worst where it's like compared to the hype, how good it could have been, and the amount of misses that were made? Those are two completely different things. So
answer them both.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
Now I want both. You teased both out there.
The biggest miss in kayak fishing history, again, what it could have been and what it is the Jackson Nar. The Jackson Nar had all the potential in the world to be one of the best boats not just that Jackson ever made, but one of the best boats made. They missed on durability, they missed on weight capacity, and they missed on layout. Like, you got these horizontal rod tubes to store your rods, but if you choose to use the pedals to steer it, you can't use your horizontal rod tubes. They got the tri-track that they came up with, but they put it in a few cool places, and they put it in a lot of places that weren't so cool. And then they had this really nice, like, tackle management locking system that worked with it, and they never promoted it. So the biggest miss overall, like all things being equal, is the Jackson R. Now I'm about to get strung up. And listen,
you can't pull it back now.
You guys want me? No, I'm not talking about that. I'll stand by that one. Here's the one I'm gonna get strung up on.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
I firmly believe this. You're asking me my opinion. It is a qualified opinion with a ton of experience. So I'm gonna say this boat is almost what it could have been and the worst boat I've ever been in. And dude, there are people that love this boat. There are Facebook groups dedicated to it. The people that love it. So I know I'm going to get lit up. But the worst boat I've ever been in is the Perception Outlaw. It's the worst. There's so many little things that are just in the, golly, if you would have moved that who tested this damn thing? And I was with Confluence at the time that it came out. Yeah. And I remember they made it to the specs of Academy. And I think what they did is they got on the phone with Academy, and Academy said, I need this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And some cake decorator designer just moved it all around. And it just happens to resonate with a lot of people. And it's at a good price point, and it's more available because it's at a lot of stores across the country. But man, by far the worst boat I've ever been in is the Perception Outlaw.
All right.
And listen, I will tell you, hate me. If you love it, go ahead. I'm just saying, for me, for my bougie calibrated ass switch, for being in kayaks and loving everything about them, it just has got a lot of the rocket holder rod launchers don't make no damn sense to me. The seat bar, the cockpit configuration, there's just so many. It could have been. So at the low end, it's the biggest miss because of what it could have been. And then at the higher end, the Jackson R.
All right. Wyatt, any thoughts? Before I move on to our next question.
You're not gonna throw the Sun Dolphin in there?
No, you know what you're getting with a $150 Sun Dolphin. You're getting a $150 Sun Dolphin, $150 Sun Dolphin. Yeah, that's a disposable kayak. You're buying that thing to use it a couple times and literally cut it up with a Sawzall and put it in your recycling bin.
You know what I actually use it for now? Like, it doesn't come out unless I'm going adventure fishing. There's some places around here where I literally have to take a machete because I'm going 100 yards through the thick to get to a lake that no one else fishes. That's the only time I'm breaking that thing out, because it's like it starts at a point and it ends at a point. And so when I'm dragging that through everything, that is what I use.
You know what a Sun Dolphin's good for? A flower bed. Make a flower bed out of it. That's about all.
You need to calm down now. Let's talk about something we haven't talked about yet. Let's talk about warranties. This is the afterthought of most people whenever they buy a fishing kayak, not really think of the warranties that come with it. Each company is a little bit different. Chad, are you aware of, I mean, you've worked in the business for a while, and I imagine even owning the shop, you've had the warranty kayaks before. Are there some companies that are better than others? What to look out for as a consumer?
I mean, I'll tell you the trick.
Oh, here we go.
All the company you're thinking about buying a kayak from,
yeah,
act like you got a warranty problem with the kayak you bought from them, and you're going to find out. Now, I'm going to back that and say, if you have a warranty, don't call the kayak company. Let me clarify that. If you drive a Ford and you wake up in the morning and go outside and your Ford won't start, you don't get on the phone and try to figure out the number for Detroit, Michigan. Mm-hmm. That's the manufacturer. The manufacturer's customer is the retailer. The retailer's customer is the consumer. So we have gone too far with manufacturers trying to help consumers to the point that we built this unrealistic expectation. They're not set up for it. they don't ship one boat at a time. They can't really help you. They don't ship one part at a time. Primarily, they ship batches of stuff to dealers. And if done properly, you can call your dealer. Your dealer can call the company, and then that you can walk in that store and get a part that they have in stock or a boat that they have in stock, and then they deal with the company. Because who's going to get a little further along with a kayak company? The guy that buys $250,000 worth of kayaks from them, or the guy that buys one kayak from them, right? And the guy that calls and says, hey, this is Chad with Hook One. I got a warranty here, and I've got another shipment coming in 3 weeks. Can you piggyback that order on there? And then I'm going to go ahead and give him a boat off the floor. I'll send you the serial numbers. I'll send you the MSO, and then we'll just switch it after the person buys the boat. If your dealer won't do that, get a new dealer. You don't have a dealer if they won't take care of you after the purchase. You have a outpost pickup location. Stop buying boats from dealers that won't take care of the customer. And dealers, listen, hey, dealers, if you're out there watching, listen to me. Stop carrying brands of kayaks that you can't do what I just said. If you can't call the company and say, have me a warranty replacement boat on my next order, drop them. Because I'll tell you how it worked when I had a shop and somebody walked in my shop. I'm like, hey, man, I know you've got a camo. I'm sold out of camo. It'll be 3 weeks till I get more camos in, or I can give you that color right over there, right over there, right over there. And then I'll take care of the deal on the back end. And then I would call the company and tell them what was going to happen. If they said, oh, send me the pictures for the warranty, I'd be like, listen, who's going to review those pictures that's better making a determination than me? Oh, yeah, that's a good point. If I can't make the determination of whether or not it's a warranty, I shouldn't be a dealer of yours. And if you won't give me a new boat, then I shouldn't be a dealer of yours. And then they would go, yep, no problem. Here's the, they added it to my PO, my purchase order. And it was on the next truck. And there was even a few cases where I only had a couple of colors, and the person was like, damn, dude, I just don't know, man. That's an ugly boat. I tell you what, here's that boat. When the new boat comes in, I'll make that one a demo, and I'll switch out with you. You just can't make any permanent modifications to it. Okay, deal. No problem. If your dealer does not take care of you, then
find a new one.
Find a new one. Or but test that. Ask the question ahead of time. Hey, what happens if I have a problem with this boat? And if they tell you, oh, you can call Bonafide, or you can call Native, or you can call Old Town, and they'll take care of you, leave.
Yeah, 100%. So whenever you were a dealer, did you ever fire a kayak company?
Amen. Now, I will tell you who I fired. Wyatt, I'm sorry.
Oh, here we go.
But listen to me here. They got enough of a backlash from it over a 3-year period in and around when that happened that they're better now. So I fired Old Town. When they had the Predator and the MX was the two big boats, I was using them. The MX came with, when they rotomolded that boat, they didn't get enough plastic in around the back of the seat pan. They had there's a thing called a rotational program where you program how long it rotates this way, how much it tilts. So they just had the program off, and there was a couple hundred boats that went out. I happened to get like a bunch of them because I was on the leading edge. And one of the Old Town people told me after I called the rep, and the rep's like, man, I've gotten as far as I can go. And I did what I said I was going to do. Hey, I'm going to give the person a new boat, and you're going to get me a replacement. I called Old Town. Old Town basically told me, well, you seem to have a disproportionate number of warranties, so we're not just going to blindly give you replacements anymore. I'm like, I have a disproportionate number of warranties because I was the first guy to order 60 boats from you. Right. And I was on the leading edge. And if you can send a rep over here or fly somebody down, we can talk about it. So then, I mean, I'll tell you, I just said, I called the rep. I loved him to death. This guy's name was Dave Ernst, and he was a Duncan Lewis rep that repped a whole bunch of brands and a bunch of people in the industry. And Duncan Lewis had been around for, 40 years. I said, Dave, I can't sell these boats anymore. I can't sell these boats if I can't tell my customer if they have a problem, they're going to get taken care of. So I booked a truck myself, had the truck come there, and I sent all them boats all the way back to freaking Maine on my dime, and told them, I put a note on every one of them, and I ain't even gonna tell you what the note said.
I can just imagine what it said.
I can't tell you what it said in mixed company. And I wrote a note. I hand wrote a note on all 61 boats that I had. But
oh my gosh!
Since they became Old Town now,
yeah,
they've got their stuff together. They were brand new in that they had just started. They took Ocean Kayak, moved it into the Old Town brand because they knew. Well, Ocean Kayak, people think, well, I want a freshwater boat. Like, it's a kayak, it floats. It's just called Ocean Kayak. Well, they realized that brand name didn't resonate with, bass fishing and inland. And kayak fishing started saltwater and kind of moved in to freshwater and to bass fishing. So they merged it in. So they were kind of just getting started with Old Town really selling fishing kayaks. Old Town had been primarily a canoe company for 40 years prior to that. And they had like one sit inside kayak called the Vapor. Other than that, they didn't really have that many boats. So I give them the benefit of the doubt now. If I was to become a dealer today, I would carry Old Town again, if that makes sense. But yeah, for a while they were the worst. Jackson sucks. Just gonna be real. Love everybody there. They're the worst right now because they do everything they can to say, oh, we'll give you a hull and we'll charge you this much for replacement, and you can get a pro-rated this. And it's almost like they do more work to keep from doing the warranty, and people just give up on it. Like there was a guy in the 10 that is now on a pro staff from another company that used to be on the Jackson pro staff, and as a pro staff member got so frustrated with the process of trying to get a boat replaced that was 100% a manufacturer's defect that he left. So
it's a pro staff, right?
Yeah.
The guy out there repping your brand.
So they're probably the worst. I would say the best in the game right now, and I'm not saying this because I'm affiliated with them, is probably Crescent. Maybe because they do lower volume, and maybe because they're more of a boutique brand, they get away with doing it more. I would say Crescent's probably like the no questions asked, stand behind the product. They understand the negative impact of somebody out complaining about their boat. I would say Big Adventures between Native and Bonafide is, top two for sure. Maybe even better when you consider that they've got way more expensive boats. We'll see if Crescent maintains that now that they've got like the Crestcraft and some of those boats where they got to really swallow, hard when they replace a $3,000 boat or whatever. But as of right now, I would say Crescent's probably the best. Actually, I'll back up. Jackson's not the worst. Pelican is. So Pelican's the worst boat and the worst warranty. Jackson's the worst of the mainstream. And then there's kind of a smattering of the other boats out there. Feel Free's really good.
How about New Canoe?
New Canoe's great. Like, actually, you know what? New Canoe's probably the best, realistically, because they know they've got a very niche audience.
Yep.
And any kind of and New Canoe is the most dealer-centric brand there is.
They are.
Blake's got this hardcore dedication to his dealers, doesn't do any selling outside of that. So I would say New Canoe is up there. They also, have their boats manufactured by Big Adventures now. So They even have a lot more traffic because people are piggybacking their boats on a Bonafide or New Canoe or a Native order. So there's a lot more, back and forth. So I would say New Canoe and Crescent are probably tied for first. Big Adventures is a very, very, very close second, maybe even number one when you consider the absolute volume of boats that they sell, which is going to lead to a lot more false or kind of most of the warranty BS you see is somebody who bought the boat used and wants a full replacement under the terms if they bought it
somebody
new.
bought it new, right?
Yeah. And then they go on the internet and try to make a stink about it. And then when you start pulling the veil back, you realize you're not under warranty. So you're complaining about the warranty that you're not under.
Yeah.
And
which is the risk you took when you bought it.
And here's the thing. A lot of people say, oh, they should warranty the boat no matter what. And here's why that doesn't work. And I know a lot of people don't think about this. But if you warranty a boat, no questions asked, what happens is if Wyatt puts his boat for sale on the internet and I go, man, that's a pretty good deal, and I go buy it, and then I just go home and fall on it till I crack it, I get a new boat for the used boat price. And kayak companies will not be around if they start replacing every boat, no questions asked, because when somebody sells a used boat and then the person wants a new boat, all they got to do is crack it and go get a new one. Then we wouldn't have kayaks to fish out of because every kayak company would be out of business in 3 or 4 years. So that's why you can't just have a blanket, we'll replace everything policy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But sometimes people suck.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I as a content creator, just about every day I find a few of them. But there's probably a few hundred that don't suck. So that's where I spend most of my time. Wyatt, what do you think?
So yeah, I've had one warranty issue with Old Town, and it was before I was on the pro staff. I kept a cooler under my seat, and it was froze the deck out there, and I stepped on it and cracked the deck. And I called them. I was like, hey, sorry guys, I forgot to register it, et cetera, et cetera. And they said, don't worry about it. They had me a whole new hull in 8 days, I believe.
8 days.
They sent me a whole new everything in 8 days.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I fired that company back in the day. They're a different company with different people and a different philosophy now than when they first started, for sure.
All right, Chad, let's land this plane. Got a last. Let's do a rapid fire. So a few questions here for you. You ready?
Yeah.
If you could only own
I just
one,
got a text about a perception outlaw already, so here we go.
Sure, people, you're gonna field those for the next couple days. I love it. If you could only own one paddle fishing kayak, what were you choosing?
For forever or now?
Forever. Yeah, this is the
like
thing you're fishing
anyone
out for
that's
the rest
ever
of your
been
life.
made.
Yep, paddle only.
Wilderness Systems Tarpon 140 or Commander 140.
Okay. How about pedal drive?
Native Titan X, Native Titan X, or not the big water, but the PDL 120 from Old Town. Old Town's got the smoothest pedal drive in the game.
Drives it.
It's smoother. I don't think it's quieter than some of the other ones, but they've got a really nice integration into the boat. You know, the knobs are locking in. It doesn't clunk back and forth. The pedal grip is nice, so you don't have to have the foot stirrups like you're at the gynecologist. So yeah, I would say the PDL and the Titan X. The Titan X is just a really nice platform.
Yep.
I never loaded it down and like fully fished it with a bunch of batteries and all the stuff like I have with the XTR, but the experiences I've had with it are pretty freaking nice.
Okay. Best if you had one kayak the rest of your life that was stern motor mounted.
Attack 140 with a Torpedo 1104 on the back.
Really? I thought you were going to say XTR. I would have lost that bet.
Well, the XTR is a boat.
A bow mount.
Let's be real. And it's really good with a bow mount. It's just heavy. The Attack 140 is low profile, doesn't catch the wind. You can still paddle it really well. It's not stupid heavy.
Far off the water.
I mean, it's literally that heavy. It's got a really good combination of a planing and displacement hull. Great layout. That boat was ahead of its time. If that boat came out again right now with a few tweaks in it, it'd be so.
So,
but best on the game right now, I said it in a video, and I'm not just saying that because I'm sponsored by them or have a relationship with them. I'll say this on this video. I actually cut my sponsor. You know this, Darren. I cut my sponsorship in half with Bonafide this year, specifically so I could be unrestricted to do kind of whatever I wanted to better serve my community and to just have some fun with a bunch of different boats to really validate, is Bonafide the best kayak out there? Because I've used them for so long that I'm a little biased. Well, a lot biased because I also have input on the design. So, of course, if they make the boat I want, then I'm going to love it. But what the hell was we talking about? I just lost.
We're getting to the last. So, would bow mounted motor, would that be the XTR?
No, I'm sorry. What I was going to say is the best boat out there right now, if I had to choose the only boat I could ever fish out of that was in production, it'd be the PWR 129 all day.
All right.
You can bow mount it. You can stern mount it. It paddles well. It's got all the things. You can use the pod if you want to. You can take the pod out and delete it. Yeah, man, I think that's the jam for sure.
So with there's a lot of new kayak companies kind of hitting the market. I actually heard from another one this morning I didn't even know about, and they were like, "Hey, you're going to be at ICAST. We'd love to show you this and get your feedback." And it's Wild something. I don't know what it is. They have a website. And it's like, I didn't even know about this one. Camino Journey. Of course, you got FlexJet kind of trickling over in from last year. You got a lot of new kayak companies hitting the market, but you got some new pedal drives. And so, I mean, is there the companies wouldn't be creating pedal drives. I've heard of a few other companies who may be coming out with pedal drives. Are pedal drives that popular? That there's such a demand for them? Because I feel like companies keep on. I mean, New Canoe actually just kind of discontinued their pedal drive, so you got kind of one going away, a couple more coming in. You got the Traverse drives with Camino Journey, which is just hitting market in the last few months. I figure like if you're going to go pedal drive, a lot of people just go straight to motor. I don't know. It was just kind of a thought that I was having.
Here's what I'll tell you. 10 years ago, I used to track this at the national championship. I'd go around and count, and I would interview people and I'd survey people. Do you paddle? Do you pedal? Do you motor? Okay. And when the people would then go from paddling to pedaling, there would be a 2.5 to 3 year gap before they motorized. And then they would ultimately motorize. I have said this from the beginning. There's two types of kayak anglers in the world if you're going to keep doing it. Those who have a motor and those who will. Yeah, I said it. It's what's fact. Most of the people now that are the biggest motor advocates in the world were the ones posting pictures of me with a tombstone saying I killed kayak fishing 10 years ago. I know who you are. I see you all the time. It warms my heart when I see somebody talking about their new sponsorship from a kayak company or motor company for their kayak when they were the anti-motor guy, 10 years ago. So anyway, back to my point. There used to be this, you'll paddle for a couple years, then you'll move into a pedal for a couple years, then you'll move into the motor in a couple years. So there was like this 6-year life cycle, two and two, pretty much was kind of like how it worked. What's happening now is people are going directly to pedal drives faster and skipping the paddle altogether. But the window between when they get their pedal drive kayak and when they put a motor on it is continuously closing. Then there's also a direct to motor crowd like there never has been before. So a lot of people are skipping the motor drive or the pedal drive phase unless they're buying the pedal drive as their backup. Oh, I just want to have the pedal drive in case my motor fails. So it's not that pedal drives are dying, and I don't think they'll ever die. It's that the gap between how long it took you to go from I like human powered, I'm using my pedal drive, I'll never put a motor on my boat. And okay, fine. I mean, I just try it to see how I love motors. The gap is closing. And competition has perpetuated that, both innovation and competition in business, but also, I mean, nobody likes going to a fishing tournament and they're pedaling their ass off and they got a little stream of sweat running down their ass crack, and some dude goes by texting and just smokes their ass. So there's that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you can go further. You can fish longer. Listen, none of us got into this to wear a skirt, put a nose plug on, and call ourselves kayakers. We're kayak fishermen. We're in fishing kayaks. We got in the kayak to catch more fish, and the motor helps you catch more fish from the kayak. So you're naturally there's going to be your outliers. There's going to be your people that are like, damn, I said 13 years ago on the internet, I'd never put a motor on my kayak. So they're just going to die on that hill. Cool. But there's two types of kayak anglers. Two, those who have a motor and those who will. Or then there's a third category of those who wish they could, but they already said they'll never do it. So they just ain't going to do it.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you what, once you have a motor, you will not going back. Because putting a Torpedo on the back of a kayak and just cruising, it's something else, man. Something freaking else. All right, folks. Well, that is the end of our show. Chad, as usual, thank you for bringing the juice. And I'm excited because on Monday of next week, I will be with Wyatt. I will be with Chad and a smorgasbord of other creators. We'll be down at Santee Cooper at Relaxed Retreat. And Chad and I are going to be doing content all week long, maybe with or without his son. But I think Fluke's going to be there. Christine Fisher's going to be there. I mean, the list goes on and on of how many creators are going to be at Relaxed Retreat. It's going to be insane. So I'm pumped about that. Chad and I are going to get out on the lake, hopefully hit up some rivers. We're not fishing the Bassmaster. Weather is going to be a little wild. A lot of rain, some lightning, so that should be interesting. But it's the first time on the lake for me, so looking forward to hanging out with some gators. Chad,
I will be offering if you're fishing the Bassmaster event, I got something for you.
Ooh, here we go.
I'm going to release my top 5 places to fish on Santee Cooper and the top 3 techniques I would use if I was fishing the tournament video a week before the event.
I like it.
Now that's public information, so it's illegal, and I'm not telling anybody anything that I'm not telling everybody. But I grew up fishing that place. It was the first place we ever had a KBF tournament. It's kind of a coming home of sorts, and I'm excited to get back there and explore some of the old locations, find some new locations. The only reason I'm not fishing the tournament, I do plan on fishing the Bass Nation Kayak Series next year. Actually, my goal is Angler of the Year for the Bass Nation Kayak Series next year. So Wyatt, enjoy your year.
Ooh.
Next year we're going. I'm just saying that's my goal. I'm getting my fat ass in shape so that I can focus on being in the right mindset, the right everything. But this year I'm going to be going back and kind of doing the experience. And because of the off limits period ahead of the event, I don't want to give up that opportunity to create content. I want to just go fishing and have fun. I'd love to go fish the Cooper River right now, but the gators are mating on the Cooper River. And so it's a good place to get, not in such a good place. Santee Cooper's got a different species of gators. If you look in my book and there's a gator in there, its head looks like a damn hippo, that's on Santee Cooper. I grew up in Louisiana, and we're gators everywhere. You got to shoo gators off the driveway to walk to the bus stop when I was a kid. But Santee Cooper is like the Jurassic Park of gator. They have like a different, I think if they got down in the DNA, they're like a different species.
Not scared of you at all.
They're not scared of you at all. Everywhere I've ever been, a gator will go the other way. Santee Cooper is the only place out of the thousands of places that I've fished over 30 plus years of kayak fishing where I've ever had gators come at me. And the first parking pole that I ever broke was because I jammed it in the face of a gator who was trying to tell me how much he wanted me gone. And I shoved it right down his open mouth throat, and he thrashed and beat it up and broke it. And I went and found the broken half and took it back as a trophy. Look what I had. And they were like, "You shoved it down a gator's mouth? What are you?" So yeah. As long as you respect them, they're mating right now. So if you see a big mud boil and some like nasty looking water, just don't go there.
Move on. Don't
go to sunny, sandy banks in the middle of the day right now, because they're laying in 2 foot of water, letting that sand reflect the sun back into their. So if they don't want to get up on the bank, they're laying on those shallow, sandy bars. Just stand up and look for a dark spot and don't go by it.
Why? You've been coming across them?
Oh yeah. In practice, I went through a grass mat and caught a 22 and lost another giant out of it. And I came back in the afternoon. There were like 6 alligators sitting on the grass mat. And I was like, I guess that's yours now.
Got my spot.
I'm going to tell you something right now. If you have baby gators, these small ones right now that are yearlings, they're right at a year old, and they like to come after a topwater frog, you might think it's cute to catch that little gator. And it is. It's fun. Oh, look at that. But as soon as that little sucker starts yelping, you're screwed, especially if you can't get out of how you got in that cove, because them big females will be coming at your ass like they're on a string, like they're on rails. So don't mess with them baby gators right now. Don't mess with them ever, but definitely don't mess with them while they're mating and they got those yearling gators.
Yeah, don't try to catch them.
Don't do it.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, there will not be a show next week or the following week. I'm going to be there next 2 Tuesdays in a row. But after that, we'll get the show rolling again. But appreciate y'all for listening in. We will see you in 2 weeks. Who knows? Chad and I might go live from Santee or the river next week. We'll bring our Starlinks with us it's going to be a good time. So you're definitely going to be hearing from us on the socials. But Wyatt, Chad, appreciate you as usual. And we'll see you next week down in Santee Cooper. You guys have a good one.
All you Old Town Outlaw people, I love y'all.
Keep texting Chad all night, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., please.
We'll see you on the next one.
I'll see you, mate.